Welcome to the Daily Commercial Forum. I am your host, Sandy Moore. Years ago, Florida students were ranked near the bottom nationally when competing against students from other states. The implementation of the FCAT has helped improve our rankings to number 11 among all 50 states. However, we still have room for improvements, and that is why Florida has elected to implement Common Core. Today, we will talk about what Common Core is and how it is different from the FCAT. Our guest from Lake County Public Schools are Dr. Marilyn Doyle, Senior Director for Academic Services, and Dr. Maggie Teachout, Director of the Career Technical Adult and Community Education Department, and Kathleen Jarvis, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, first off, I just have to say I'm so excited to have you guys here talking about this Common Core. I recently went to a meeting about this, and I was just so proud of what our county is doing in the way of education, and I'm just really proud to have both of my boys in the Lake County public school systems at this time with what you're doing. So I just have to say that to begin with.
Thank you.
Now, tell us, let's start with you, Dr. Doyle. Can you tell us a little bit about what is Common Core?
Well, the Common Core State Standards Initiative is a state-led focus, and it has established some clear educational expectations in the areas of English language arts and mathematics. Those standards are nationally benchmarked to force or drive global competitiveness, and it also ensures that students will leave high school college ready as well as workforce ready.
How is this different from the FCAT?
Well, when you look at increasing the rigor, the state of Florida started back in 1996 with the Sunshine State Standards, and they moved into 2007 with the next generation Sunshine State Standards, and now full implementation of Common Core would take place 2014-15. Back in 1996, the standards were very computation-focused, procedural kind of, you retrieved the information and you kind of regurgitated the information. And the transition to increase the rigor in the instructional practices came about with Next Generation Sunshine State Standards. So before, the standards were a mile wide and an inch deep in thinking. Now moving from Next Generation to Common Core, they are clustered and they go very deep. So the conceptual understanding of a concept is so very important to master the Common Core standards.
Okay, tell us why do we need to change? I mean, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that, one, just the word FCAT just makes them roll their eyes and grit their teeth and you just can't stand it. And now you're talking about something that sounds like it might even be scarier in the form of testing. You know, why change?
Well, you know, change is always good.
Not always.
And basically, when you look at the industry demand and you look at the U.S. and compare it to other countries and the level of expectation in the educational setting compared to the expectations here, there's some concerns. There's been some concerns in economic development with kids coming directly from the schools into the workforce, the lack of skill set. And it's so important for it to have the standardized standards, because a student can be educated at any school or in any state in the United States and are guaranteed to receive a high quality education. So it levels the playing field, but it also increases that global competitiveness.
Now, I thought it was very interesting to me in looking at this, that it really was talking about changing how we teach our kids, not necessarily just how we test them, because I think that's really the way we're looking at it. We're thinking, you know, they're just going to test us, you know, it's going to be harder. But really looking at, one of the examples is that you don't necessarily need to memorize the periodical table anymore. What good is that for a kid to learn that when everybody who has a smartphone can pull up a periodical table? So tell us a little bit more about that.
I think when we're looking at Common Core state standards and what needs to happen that's a little bit different with our students, there has to be a shift in control of who is owning the learning. So our students are the ones that are now going to have to be in control of their learning, and teachers more of a facilitator guiding this cognitively complex sort of thinking. So that's a great example that you use with the periodic table. You can go to your smartphone and pull that up, but once you have that information and now what do you do with it? It's shifting our thinking into how do we teach our students how to think critically on a more complex level, so that when they have problems that are not problems today, how will they then go about solving those problems? So it's really about critical thinking and thinking on a cognitive level, which is different than what our current standards are calling for.
And what do you do to teach people that? How do you do that?
Well, when you talk about shifts and you talk about Common Core, the shifts are basically in the instructional strategies and the approach that the teachers use with the students. I think you look at it, I would say we have pockets of excellence. And in order to for students to master the skill set necessary for Common Core standards, we're going to have to kick it up a notch. We're going to have to introduce them to more complex text, more non-fictional text. We're going to have to introduce them to more writing across content areas for a variety of reasons. We're going to have to make sure that control, we shift in control, and also that independence. Those are all things that teachers need to do, because the content has not changed. Algebra is algebra.
Right.
It hasn't changed. It's looking at it from a contextual point of view across all subject areas. It invites that problem-based learning of situations. So basically a kid can delve deeper into concepts across math, science, social studies, writing, all at once. You go very deep with the concept instead of very wide with the concept. And our goal is to create 21st century thinkers.
Well, and I'm guessing with creating 21st century thinkers, you're also going to need to use technology a lot more than maybe we have been. Is that going to pose a problem, or what are the challenges there?
We have, our career technical programs, which I'm lucky enough to supervise. We do have great technology, and we do keep up with business. I think it's always a challenge to keep up with technology. It changes so quickly. One of the things that you mentioned, teaching, is also bringing the community in and getting the business partners involved and hearing what do they need. We do bring in our business partners, and what we hear is that the soft skills are missing, the teamwork is missing, and those are some of the things that we're hearing. And we need to hear from them so that they can tell us what are they lacking, what do they need, because that's an important piece too, because we're not just teaching students to pass tests and to get diplomas, we're teaching them to go out and be part of society and the economy.
Well, and before we go into some of the stuff that you just talked about, tell us a little bit about what is career and technical education. Explain that.
Career and technical education is, they are programs in which students learn entry-level job skills, and we run the gamut. We've got engineering, we've got culinary, we've got auto, we have television production. If you've been in our studios, you've seen they're very high-quality studios.
Very good, yes.
If you walk in our culinary, they are just like a restaurant. We have, I'm going to miss some because I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings because I missed them. But we've got commercial art, we've got building and construction, we have, we've just opened up 3 applied cybersecurity programs. We're opening a networking program.
Now explain how these programs work, because I know when I went to school, you either took your regular math, science, English, whatever, or you might have gone to like VOTech and you might have learned some things, but it's different now. It's within the schools.
It's different now. We embrace the philosophy that you need to have this training and this education for students who may not get to the technical center. So we have these in each of our high schools. We have full programs. And our students are not just the students who are not going to college. I think that's what the mindset is. Our students are all being prepared for college and careers, because everyone needs to get a job.
Sure.
If you're getting a doctorate, what's the ultimate goal? To get a job, right? We recognize that, and probably at least 50% of the students who go through career technical do go on to post-secondary education in colleges.
Well, and I know you mentioned kind of being more career ready and partnering with businesses. How are we making, what kind of things are we doing with this Common Core to make our kids more viable in the workplace, or viable later, whether it be not just going straight into a job, but even going into college?
When you think of Common Core state standards, college and career readiness, there's a natural alignment with 21st century skills. Tony Wagner, the author of Closing the Global Achievement Gap, says it very well. There are 7 survival skills that students need to function within a content, but master a certain set of skills that takes them beyond the classroom to college as well as into the industry. Those skills include critical thinking, collaboration, ethical decision making, entrepreneurship. So when you're studying, normally you study algebra or math, it's in isolation. But now it's across all content. And I have to be able to collaborate with a classmate, looking at a problem that I have to now solve. I'm only given a certain amount of information, and I have to start to think about that information to move into a solution. When you look at our elementary kids that are moving into elementary this school year, they're going to encounter jobs, technology, knowledge that has not even been created at this point in time. So if I can guarantee that they can become and teach them to be critical thinkers and those 21st century skills, 10 years as they move on, they can have that, still have that process to process through situations, problems, and jobs that they're on.
It almost sounds to me like you're in doing this, like, you know, you said math is going to be math, 1 + 1 is going to equal 2 or whatever it might be. Algebra is still going to be that. But it sounds like you're making it more relevant to them, whether it be that they just know their algebra. Because I remember thinking, why am I taking algebra? I am not going to be a math major. I'm not going to be teaching, So is that correct in making all of those things relevant?
The rigor and the relevance, and most definitely increasing those cognitive reading skills along the way.
What is the PARCC test?
The PARCC is actually an association that has been charged with creating an assessment that aligns itself with the Common Core standards. PARCC stands for Partnership of Assessments and Readiness for College and Careers. So that alignment will be with those Common Core standards. When you look at the Common Core standards, those performance standards, they're going to be anchored with the College and Career Ready standards. So when you talk about what PARCC would look like, it's going to be a lot of computer-based type of testing, and we're transitioning now into computer-based testing, preparing for that 2014-15 rollout. There will be simulations attached to a problem that you read the problem and you hit on an icon and you have to watch in a simulation to even get the answer. So the rigor, the relevance of it all is going to be attached to that PARCC assessment.
So you answered my next question. We're looking a few years down the road before this test actually takes place, but right now you're already working on teaching the kids to get prepared for that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We're doing an implementation rollout. Right now with Lake County Schools, we're currently implementing fully in K-1. Next year we'll be rolling out in K1 and 2 with blended instruction. And when I say blended, that means exposure to the Common Core state standards as well as the next generation state standards at the same time in grades 3 through 12. And then in 14-15 school year, that's when it will be full implementation, K through 12. And then that's the first year that we'll be testing the PARCC assessment. Not sure what it will be called at that time, but right now PARCC is the consortium of stakeholders that are pulling that assessment together. So it's a very exciting time, very new time for all of us, but we do have a process of really implementing and rolling that out so that our students will be ready K through 12.
Now, I have to say, coming from a parent who has tried to, I've never felt so unintelligent as I did when I was trying to help my 3rd grader and 2nd grader with homework, because it just seems like they're asking questions in different ways, and it can be very difficult. And I'm guessing that there's going to be some parents that are pretty intimidated by the changes. What are we doing to help the parents prepare for this? Because I know I want to do what I can do to help my kids, because I want them to be successful in all of this. So what are we doing for the parents?
When we look at education as a whole, I like to frame it as a community. Educators, businesses, parents, all of us joining together to make this happen. We started with our community initiative, and you was there at the community initiative for an awareness about Common Core and how it will look in our classrooms. And we will follow that up in October with a larger community forum. But at the same time, we're also have partnered with the Common Core Institute to create district Common Core Black Belts. These will be your experts in owning the shifts that will take place and preparing schools for these shifts. In that process, they will also be responsible for making sure schools are providing resources and having conversations with parents about these shifts. We found some really wonderful resources with the National PTSA and the Council of Great City Schools, a parent roadmap to Common Core. What it does for a parent in the areas of English language arts and mathematics. If your child is in 5th grade, it shows you a 3-year trend of what that child can expect: 4th grade math, 5th grade math, and then on to 6th grade math. Very user-friendly, and they are tools for parents to use at home, and we will teach parents how to do that through our Common Core Black Belts and partner with our schools to make sure those parent organizations are very informed about Common Core.
Well, and I know some of what we just in educating, it's just even making parents more aware and things that they may not be thinking about, because I know I think about, I need to make sure my kids are reading, and I'm trying to find them great things to read, but I don't always think about that we need to increase our vocabulary and how and what we're talking about and the everyday opportunities that we have. So I thought that was really a great thing that we're transitioning to. What can you tell me about, as far as going back to you, Dr. Teachout, how does the CTA support the Common Core standards?
CTE.
Or CTE, sorry.
CTE, which is Career Technical Education, is, we've always done many of these skills inherently because Career Tech Education is a very hands-on product. You're actually performing the task that you would do on a job. And I thought your example was great. No one understands geometry the way a drafting student does.
Right.
Okay. If I'm having trouble with fractions and I'm in culinary, what a natural place to learn fractions and how to multiply and divide.
Right.
You're doing recipes. So those are how I've always felt career technical education. We took the knowledge students learned from their academic teachers and we showed them how to use it in the workplace. And so this is a great extension where I think that we're going deeper, much deeper than we had before. We did a great job before. I think we're going to do a better job under this. I think as we encourage business partners in the community to get really involved in schools, not just career technical, which we've done for many years, but also throughout the curriculum and throughout the grades. It is a wonderful opportunity to better mesh what we do.
Yeah. Now, I know you had mentioned, and you all have mentioned partners in the community and business partners and needing business partners. I want you to talk about, what types of partners you're going to need and why. Why do you think? I know that there's probably going to be someone sitting there going, "I'm glad my kids are out of school, so I don't have to worry about this." Why should we care? Why should, even if your kids are not in school or maybe you don't have kids, why is this important?
Anyone who's interested in the economic development of the community and who wants their bank teller to have the appropriate skills or their doctor to have the appropriate skills or any other person that they do business with during life, that's why it's important, because the students that we teach today will be the nurses and doctors of tomorrow that will take care of us. So it's important. The economic development, we were talking before about how important it was to bring the new businesses into Lake County and grow our economy. And the way that you draw in businesses is to have a skilled workforce, which we do through education.
And I know that when people are looking to where they're going to move, what do they do? First thing they do is they look at what the schools, and how, what's happening in the schools. So I'm hoping that this is going to bring us to that too. Tell us a little bit more about how businesses are going to get involved in this.
Well, we're going to have a business meeting in October, and I actually don't have the date with me, where we've challenged a small cohort of business people to bring 10 other business people. And we want to talk about, how do we do this? What do we want to do? We want all kids to be college and career ready. How do we do it? We do it by creating 21st century thinkers. Then what are those big shifts, the how-do? There are some shifts that educators have to make, but also some shifts that businesses, we're asking them to make. Making a common goal between what we're trying to do as educators, parents, and business owners, you're maximizing resources. So a business could have an internship in their law office and have some conversation with that student that's interested in law and talk about those 21st century skills. Which areas would you like to grow in? And that person could be a fabulous innovator as a business person and can teach that child some skills or some approaches to how to become a good critical thinker or an innovator, an entrepreneur. So if we all focus in on the same goals and creating 21st century thinkers across all different types of situations to make it more applicable, real life, and more relevant, then I think we've partnered together to build a stronger student and a stronger community.
Now, I know I mentioned a little bit about technology, and because I know one of the things that I came away from that meeting thinking was, we're really going to need to get our kids their hands on more technology so that they can, really keep up with these kids in other countries and other states. Where are we, how are we going to raise the money for that type of thing? I mean, do we have money that's in place? Do we have those? I know we have some, but, some technology in our schools, but what's the plan there?
Well, we have really nice facilities that are, I can't say the number that's fully retrofitted or have gone wireless. We do have a model school, Lake Mineola, that has the iPads, a very impressive pilot implementation that's going on there.
Well, and their school grades, or their FCAT scores jumped up
They've
substantially.
done extremely well, yes. And some other schools are looking at piloting bring your own technology as one approach. I think it's going to be so very important that we encourage students and parents to understand that the use of technology in the educational setting is going to be so very important. And so, we are all excited about it, and to talk about each individual school and their situation, I don't have that information.
Right, no, and
but again, it is an initiative and a goal of our district to make sure students have the right equipment in their hand in order to do what we are expecting them to do as students.
And our business partnerships help enormously. Last night, the City of Leesburg approved a partnership with Leesburg High School Power Academy, and through the partnership, they will be providing equipment, they'll be providing expertise, so that is one way that we keep up with industry standards and with the technology is through business partnerships.
And I know that one of the things that I came away too was that we're raising the expectations of our kids. And I actually felt guilty because I always keep like your computer, my iPhone or whatever, I'm like, don't touch it to the kids. Whereas I really need to be going here because they really need to be able to do those kind of things. And they are more capable than we think. And they can, as far as in their learning, and a lot of times we dumb things down when we really shouldn't as parents. So that was something that I also came away with from that. Tell us a little bit more. We mentioned business partners. You talked about the City of Leesburg. What other types of partnerships are we looking to develop to make this, implement this and make it be a success?
We could develop lots of new partnerships. We have a great deal of many partnerships. We have partnerships with hospitals, with healthcare facilities, with the City of Leesburg, as I mentioned. Home Builders Association, it goes on and on. We have advisory committees for all of our career tech programs, but the opportunities are just limitless to bring in that business partner expertise that we may not have yet. So that's where we'd really like to move in, is to get more and more people from business into the schools so we hear them, and it's a win-win situation. It helps the student, it helps the employer.
Now, are you going to be able to give the employees maybe some training as to how they can implement these? I can't think of the word now that you used. Interns or things like internships into their business, because I know a lot of times you give the intern the grunt work, but that doesn't necessarily seem like it's going to really master these skills. So is there going to be training in that and help with them so that they can think of the possibilities in that way?
The internships that we have now that we do through Career Tech, the teachers has a curriculum plan, and that says these are the skills the student needs to learn on the job. So it's not just the grunt work. And we've been doing that in career technical education, and I think that's probably something that we will share with the curriculum side of the house, because you don't want the student to go out and do the grunt work. It needs to be an educational experience.
So it's all about communicating all of these things. You mentioned being more globally competitive. Can you tell us more a little bit about that?
Well, I think you did a great lead-in when you talk about different countries in comparison to our country. And since implementation of the FCAT, we've moved up the scale, but there's a lot of room for growth. Just talking to Kevin Beard with the Common Core Institute, and he always give a nice analogy of you might be hired today for a technical job, and you're very qualified for that technical job, but in 6 months that job is now obsolete. So therefore, most times the employer goes elsewhere to look for someone who can keep up with the changing trends of technology and that thought process for innovation. So we want to give our students those skills so they can be more competitive on a global level.
So that adaptability, how do you teach adaptability with kids, though? Is it in just working together, or?
Working together, having those courageous conversations. I think there's another avenue, bringing partners in to share their experiences, their business experience about the adaptability, making those adjustments. And when you're doing problem-based learning, you put kids in some uncomfortable situations sometimes with a group of people, because now you're no longer working in isolation. So it trains kids how to be adaptable and how to think outside of the box, how to work in a collaborative group. So again, it's making sure we provide those experiences on a regular basis for students as they grow in this process.
Now, do you foresee that in the classrooms it's going to be a lot more hands-on type stuff?
I do. I think it'll be more student-driven as well, where they might, look at the concepts maybe the night before, generate some questions, and they're the ones guiding that process. What do I need from you as my teacher, from you as a facilitator, to help me understand this concept based on the situation that was provided in class? So really a lot more of that problem-based learning, where the students are the driver of the vehicle, and the teacher is more of a facilitator to drive that very deep thinking, that conceptual thinking that the students are going to need. It's going to be really exciting, because we're going to be able to see the students thinking through what they're creating in the classroom. It's going to be a lot more of products. What are you creating? What are you developing? What is the thinking behind that? Not just what's the right answer, but more, what is the thought behind your answer? How did you come up with that? Justify your thinking. What do others think in your group? That collaboration.
I appreciate you all being here today. I know we're out of time, but I'm excited about this shift, because I just really feel like it's going to prepare our kids to be more viable in our community, in their career, whatever that may be. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us today, and I look forward to hearing more about this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.